Hello there. Well, I'm Fiona from Weekly Sewing Bee. Hi. I'm going to make a tweedle muffler. Now this is a type of muffler suitable for somebody with Alzheimer's. Now basically what it is, you know, if they've got Alzheimer's, I'm assuming they're old, so they may have arthritis in their hands, and it's for them to put their hands in if they get cold. But there's also a lot of things which they can just fidget with, just to keep them active. And it's all about the memories, isn't it? So, what I've got here is I've got fake fur for the outside. I've got some fleece for the lining. Now, in a way, fleece is better. If you've got dry skin, it doesn't catch as much. And then I've got some wadding. Now, as I said, it's going to have different textures on it as well. I've got some curtain lining, the stuff that goes at the top of curtains, and I'm basically going to make a pony one. Now, I've got no idea if these are copyrighted or not. I've seen them on the internet and they look like a great idea. Great for ADH children as well, attention deficit, so they can just fiddle with it. And I've not seen a horse one for sale, so we're not completely stealing somebody else's idea. Okay, so I'm going to use this for the girth. It's a nice texture, nice rough texture, and I have some leftover scraps of PVC, and I've got some silk. I'm going to make a little saddle cloth with that, and I've got some fur for the tail. I've got some buttons as well that I'm going to stitch on, and some odd bits of ribbon, and I have this is embroidery thread. Now I buy multi-packs because they're just financially more viable for me, but they always throw in a couple of like dip dyed ones, which I'm sure are brilliant, but for me I don't like them, so I'm going to use that for the forelock on the front of the horse. For the mane, I'm going to use pom-pom. I'm going to take that apart so I've got the stitches along. And yeah, odd bits of ribbon. I have these in my sewing kit. These I did a video of how to put studs on jeans, so they've got no use for me whatsoever. You can't take them apart to put them on anything else, so I'm going to stitch those in there as well. So lots of things, nice quiet things, and yeah, I suppose I best get on really. So for the main body of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch these two together for the main muffle, and then I'm going to put the wadding on the top, but round the outside I'm going to put lots of bits of ribbon in there. So, and they really are leftover scraps, and it is just stuff to fiddle with really. So I need them in between the two layers of fabric, and I'm literally, when I stitch these together, I'm going to stitch these in. So I'm going to leave them on the side for the minute. I need to hem my saddle cloth as well, and then I need to cut out the design for the horse's head. So now this needs to be long enough so it's loose around, and I always sew with the wadding on the outside just so that I can keep an eye on it. It's a lot easier to fix a sewing machine's foot on than it is to fix it internally. So I'm just going to place a ribbon there, and this is any leftover scraps you have to hand. A little bit of cord would be good, and it is all different textures and all things like that. That's what we're going for. is all to do with inspiring memories. So I'm going to carry on sewing down this long side, and then I'm going to do the same on the other long side as well. And I'm not going to worry too much about the loose ends on that bit of fabric. Most of it will be sealed in, so you know, like I'm going to hem the saddle cloth and everything else like that. But that one I can probably just let ride. So, oh, that was an unintentional pun, I'm afraid. But yeah, you can forgive me, can't you? If I tried to be funny, I wouldn't be able to be, would I? So, another bit. Keeping an eye on the wadding that I'm not getting it all caught up. And I do have some sort of canvasy rope as well, and I'll put those in the other side. So that's that sewn. Now I've left myself a bit of hemming. That's just because, no reason other than it's all caught up in my foot and it's all a bit of a pain. And so we can get rid of that. And I can untuck this. So if that was actually inside the machine, this would be quite a pain. There we are. Oh yeah, and the saddle cloth is literally just going to fold that over, and then because this stuff really frays, so I've got to make sure that it's out of the way. And in fact, I can actually sew the saddle just onto this saddle cloth as well. So I'm just going to fold that end over. And then I can keep going round. So I still have some cutting out to do as well. I can get rid of that because we're all up to date. This is just fur, fake fur. I love it. I usually go for like the sheep's wool. If I'm only going to buy a cheap fur, then I go for the sheep's wool rather than the fabric fur. Now all I'm going to do for the horse's head, and I know this is a bit of a cheat really, because it's all very well for me to say I'm just going to draw the horse's head, because not everybody can. So I've just drawn literally a very outline. I'm going to do 2 folds of that. In the V for the neck here, I'm going to cut out my ears, and I do need 4 of those ears, so I'm going to make use of the fabric so that I'm not wasting it and I'm using the same curves. And then I'm going to stitch it on along the outside. So I'll cut that with my 4 ears. For my saddle, and this is leftover scraps. If you didn't have loads of leftovers, then what I would suggest is because you don't need to make it an animal, you really don't. All you need is something for them to keep their hands warm and keep their minds busy. And so it could be anything. Whereas 2 of the ribbons I'm using are actually the same ribbons, but they're different colours. You could get away with using different textures. And I have noticed that, there we go, and that'll be my saddle, and I'll sew it onto my brightly coloured saddle cloth. Okay, so pom-pom for the mane. What I need to do is I need to take this apart. So I'm just sort of fiddling with it now, and I'm trying to find this strap. Now I'm using a pom-pom because I need strips of wool. So rather than try and work out how to cut them out, I'm just going to take apart a pom-pom which will have strands of wool. So you could just use wool. And then for the front here, I'm just going to sew those on. Alright, so I've got a bit of sewing to do and a bit of cutting to do, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, welcome back. Okay, so I'm kind of up to date. What I've done is cut round the horse, and I've cut 2 slots, and it's literally just straight down there to sew the ears in. And what I need to do is I need to sew the ears here so that they go down, and then when it folds out they'll be sticking up. So, and of course I've gone for nice short ears because obviously I love the Welsh ponies. And in we go, a good couple of stitches. Now the thing about sewing fabric fur is that it's it pushes it away. You know, that's what we've got to think. It's not we're trying to pierce it through. All we're trying to do is push the fabric out of the way. Now I am going to always seem to do this. You must be so annoyed with me. Yes, when I pause the camera, I rush through and get everything done that I need to get done, and then I have to change the bobbin. So I know you must get really annoyed with me doing that, and then I don't want to stop the film because then it's more edits, which is more work. So what I'm doing here is I'm just grabbing a bobbin that's quite happy to go round. When I was sort of thinking about doing this and making sure that I had everything to hand, I knew that I had some bobbins that were just the wrong size, and I thought, oh, I'll never find them. I put them in the bin, you know, they're gone, I can't use them. So the first bobbin that I pick up is one of those bobbins. How silly is that? So I'll have a little think and see if I can include it. Yeah, because if you were going to do a pony one, there's no reason why you can't actually buy little circles for the bit and little stirrups and everything. You know, you can really go to town on it. I'm just using sort of odd buttons, and the leather was a pair of slippers, and I've used it for a few other crafty bits. I've made a pencil case out of it. I did buy it for a reason, and I do now need to buy some more because I've used it all on little projects. So there's my ears on. I need to join these 2 together, and I need to leave the bottom bit here to turn inside out. So I can start from here. It literally is, I'm just going to sew around the outside of this. I'm going to use stuffing inside rather than shaping it with a panel or anything. And I need to be aware that I need to not catch the ears when I get to the top, but I do need to sew in this embroidery thread. So I'm just going to pause now, and I'm going to keep the embroidery thread as much as I can in its tube form. So I'm going to sew in like this. Now, I know the sort of salmon pink one is in lovely condition, but not so much for the green and yellow. Okay, so I'm just joining up these 2. I've got the ears here, I've got the main body of the head, and I can see quite clearly that I have the embroidery thread sticking out. So what I've managed to do is just catch the embroidery thread under the needle there. So let's carry on sewing. I've cut it, and I am going to have a little double check that I've got both sides sewn together, and I'm just going to do that by turning it over. I know, I suppose it's pride, isn't it? But I'm not going to worry about it. If I need to re-sew something, then I'm going to re-sew something. Okay, so I'm now going on to the mane of the horse, and I'm literally just tucking that in, and I'm going to sew over all of this. So nice small stitches, and it's going to be good for the actual body, as it were, to go over it twice. So rather than even worry about it, let's just assume that we have to go over both sides. Okay, so you can see where I've got my green thread caught up. It's because I said I didn't like it. And I'm just going to run over the other side so that we know that we've stitched in that as firmly as possible. You know, the whole idea is that we don't give a choking hazard by not sewing it properly. So that's all done. Just going over the other side here, and that's good. So all I need to do now with the head is I need to turn it inside out, give it a little bit of stuffing, and I need to put eyes on. So, and of course I need to lop these so that they're balanced. Now the eyes that I'm going to use are sort of standard safety eyes, and you just push them through and pop in the brackets on the back. So I'll put one on, and then when I switch off the camera, that'll be part of my sewing. And I must admit, I quite like the idea of lining the second one up when the camera's not on, because I can concentrate then. Okay, getting the mane out of the way. I'm going to push my hand in there, and I'm going to start it with some sharp craft scissors and just a tiny hole. If it's too big, then what will happen is you'll just pull the washer through and it just won't work. So all I've done is literally start the hole. Then I'm going to push the eye through, and then when it's on the other side, if my hole doesn't seem big enough, in a way it's a bit easier. You can just do. Yeah, break a couple of threads with the scissors, and then I'm just going to push my washer home. So there we are with one eye, and I'll come back to the other, and a little handful of stuffing and the trim. So that's that done. So I've got my main body here with my little bits of ribbon are sewn through. What am I pulling? Yes, who knows? I'm still attached. Okay, so these are the little bits of ribbons. There's not a lot, but you know, it's something to sort of fidget with, really, and different textures. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to sew my saddle on. And I need to sew the girth on. So I'm going to start there. And I'm going to place that there. Now I don't know whether I want the girth going all the way around because I don't want to lose my fur. In a way it would be better if I had some maybe thinner. Okay, all I'm doing is putting a little hem on there just to make life easier for myself. I'm not going to go all the way round. I just want a little bit of texture. So trim the open, and then I'm going to literally top stitch this. And I've taken out, I don't know what it's called. I suppose it's the pulley. It's the pulley bit that you adjust with. And sew around that, and then on the other side I can hem it and sew it. So, which is all good. And then I can turn it inside out and just hem the inside one as well. So, but we will come to that. Let's get that just in. Good, good. So, all I've got is one layer of the outer fabric. I've given myself just a little bit of hem allowance, and I'm not trying to catch the stitches or anything, I'm just going straight over. So I can put that there. In fact, I'm actually going to make it slightly shorter just to make it easier for myself. Just tuck that under. So I don't need to hem it because it's not a naked edge. It's going to be sewn in. And then I'm going to come round, still making sure that I've got nothing underneath. I'm not catching the lining or anything. Sure that it lies flat, and then I'm coming round the outside of the saddle cloth, and again leaving myself some hem allowance, so I can get rid of that. It's such a mess. Now I need to do the same on here. So again, leaving myself some hem allowance. And I'm going to top stitch. I'm getting rid of this wadding as well and the lining, and I'm just going to sew that together. Actually, I think I'd cheat a bit. Let's make life easy for myself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the seam first. So fold that all out of the way, and then I'm literally just going to run along there and do that seam. So. Again, I'm making sure that I haven't got anything untoward tucked under my stitch line, which it does happen, you know, and it does happen to everyone every now and again. There we go. I sort of hesitated about doing this seam line now was literally it can be tricky to do this next bit with that done, but it's going to be tricky either way. So turning it back inside out, and now I just need to sew the saddle and the saddle cloth onto there, but I need to make sure again that I've got everything out of the way. Now, if you would like, you can sort of take this, most sewing machines have this that takes off, and then we could sew it over there. So, let's place it in the sewing machine. Again, making sure the wadding is out of the way and also the lining. Yes, I was a very good girl this morning. I spent a long time in the garden, but I do feel as if I've been cut to ribbons. So, yes, please don't think that I am cut to ribbons. I know they'll be gone by tomorrow. All I need to do is sort of have a little sleep. So here I am. I'm still making sure that everything's out of my way. That everything is moving quite freely through the machine. So I'm just going to do this bottom stitch, and there we are. Now I have the pleasure of taking it out of the machine. Now I'm a big fan of just removing the foot if it's the foot that's getting caught up. So, you know, bear with me. And in a way, you know, if you're quite happy doing hand sewing, then doing hand sewing for that would be a great idea. So let's get it round the right way again, just to update. And we need to finish this head and get the head sewn on. We also have the tail to sew on as well, so let's get this finished. Alright, I'm going to pause the camera and I'll be right back with you. Hi. Okay, so I've got my head done. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to turn this inside out. So I still have my lining to sew. I need to remember to put the head end at the end with the saddle. I'm telling myself this, I'm not telling you this. And this is my tail, which is just some long fur sewn into a tube and then turned inside out. Which I could have done off camera as well. So, and I need it to pop right out so that I can sew it in the grain. I'm not going to sew up the ends. I can always hand stitch those afterwards. And there we are. So, first job. I need the tail to stick out this time, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this lining over and then I can sew it together. So, let's get this machine ready to go. It does have an extra thread in there for some unknown reason, which is strange. I know it's strange. And the tail is at the top of the saddle. I can just see the stitches there. Opposite end, but still at the top of the muffler. So, a couple of stitches, make sure it's nice and secure. That's that done. I'm going to take this out. Now I can sew the head in now. So again, I need to make sure that it's at the saddle end, as it were. And what I'm going to do is, rather than risk it and sew it on the wrong way around, I'm going to turn it inside out and I'm sort of manually going to place it. Yeah, that works for me. Now, this is just because sometimes I do find that type of thing difficult. And to be successful in anything, you know, sewing or anything, you really have to know your strengths. So I know one of my weaknesses is placement, turning things inside out. So I can fold that round, and I'm literally just the same again, going to sew along that, and then I can sew up the lining. So we are quite near the end. Now this is going to look horrendous to the sewing machine because I'm sewing quite a few layers of fur and fleece and other things. But what I am actually doing is, it's like, I've said it before, think of it as sewing butter, cutting butter. They're not particularly difficult fabrics to sew through. So one thing we do have to watch when we're sewing something as thick as this is that we don't push the foot up, because if we clip this foot and the levers goes up, then we've lost all bobbin tension. So I always think I'm going to give myself nightmares when I sew soft toys, you know. Alright, let's get this out from under the machine. All I need to do now, pretty much the last job, is I need to fold this lining over, and I'm pinching it so that I can sew both sides together. I give it a good shake so I don't have any of the outer lining in the way. Pop the foot down again, run a couple of stitches just to keep everything in place. Okay, when you're saying things like that, what I did was I just literally made myself jump by clipping this bit off the foot. So, you know, don't do that. Don't make yourself jump. So there we are, a twiddle muffler. I'm going to put a couple of stitches just to keep his head up, and I've got a few buttons as well that I can sew on. So other than that, he's all done. I've trimmed his head fetlock might be the feet, I'm not sure. And ideal for keeping hands busy and hands warm. Alright, thank you ever so much for watching. My name's Fiona from Weekly Sewing Bee, and hopefully I'll catch you again on the web. Thank you ever so much.